Ryan Garcia goes at Oscar De La Hoya, and last thing you want to see, it seemed like they were on good terms. They've had a lot of, rocky roads back and forth between De La Hoya and Ryan Garcia, but Ryan went at Oscar De La Hoya talking about, F Golden Boy Promotions, F Oscar, F you, all this crazy stuff because of, Oscar De La Hoya allegedly, putting some back end money, into a contract with Ryan Garcia because he did lose to Rolly Romero. I'm sure, De La Hoya is just trying to show that, you have to perform in order to be making this money, at least from the promotional aspect. And I think Ryan's starting to get into that, era where he's recognizing Turki Al-Sheikh, kind of seeing that, maybe he doesn't necessarily need Oscar De La Hoya anymore to thrive in the sport. And it seems like, Ryan Garcia is just burning the bridge between Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, why would Ryan Garcia go after his own promoter, the guy that's in charge of getting him fights? Now he's going to probably get in some, lawsuit trouble, some lawsuit issues. But I don't know what exactly is going to happen next. Oscar De La Hoya posted on social media saying that Ryan Garcia is having another episode and, he's going through it again and whatnot. So I don't know to what extent, Ryan's genuinely feeling this way, or if it's just like one of those moments where you got to be worried for Ryan Garcia. But either way, there's a lot of speculation about whether or not, Ryan Garcia is okay. But, it seems like he's probably going to end up leaving Golden Boy because it's just a lot. Ryan was telling Oscar, I'm your only star and whatnot. But, Golden Boy has, Kid Austin, Virgil Ortiz. But yeah, I'd argue Ryan Garcia is the most popular fighter from Golden Boy Promotions. But still, Ryan has to be smart in what he does now because, you get involved in the lawsuits. Ryan Garcia gets sued by, Oscar De La Hoya. That's a bad look. And then on top of that, that's another issue that you have to deal with outside of the ring. It's just the last thing Ryan Garcia needs in his life. And I think Ryan, just has to heal up from that hand surgery, get back, and, prove that he's still that talented guy with the mean left hook. Because if not, then it's kind of like he has to find himself. And, if De La Hoya is not willing to promote him anymore because of the burned bridge that, Ryan Garcia is creating here, then I don't know what Ryan would do next, but I hope and wish, Ryan Garcia all the best. It's just, crazy to see him and Oscar going at it. They're always going at it seems, but when they're in person, it seems like they're cordial and whatnot. They're buddy-buddy, but, definitely going through a rough patch right now. I think it's just the volcano effect, of Ryan Garcia losing that fight to Rolly. And obviously, De La Hoya went, 0-3 in that night in Times Square where, Teofimo did his thing against Barboza, Haney did his thing against Ramirez, and then Ryan lost to Rolly Romero. So just a tough night for De La Hoya. Maybe he tried to show Ryan, his frustrations with that fight, with the loss that Ryan Garcia took and how it made Golden Boy look to go 0-3, and it showed up in the contract. Ryan wasn't happy about that, and then, went off on Oscar De La Hoya on text message and said everything like, F Golden Boy, I'm the only star you have at Golden Boy Promotions. I can't wait to beat you when we, eventually separate and I get to go my own way. I get to beat all of your Golden Boy fighters. So Ryan Garcia is already thinking big picture, I'm done with Golden Boy, which is crazy to see. I don't know if it's a good thing or, a bad thing, because ultimately, Oscar De La Hoya is responsible for a level of Ryan Garcia's success because, promoters do the job. They make the fights happen. They execute, turn these fights into fruition, these mega fights. Ryan Garcia wanted that Tank Davis fight, even when Oscar De La Hoya kind of pleaded with him to not take it because he was just giving up too much. Ryan Garcia had to deal with the rehydration clause and the catch weight, and De La Hoya tried to prevent that. And Ryan, told Oscar, like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this fight happen. I don't care. De La Hoya still tried to convince him not to take the fight because he knew the effects of a rehydration clause and a catch weight, and that Ryan didn't have to agree to those terms. Ryan insisted, and ultimately Ryan got stopped in that fight. But, De La Hoya was genuinely looking out for him. It wasn't like he was just trying to make a pretty penny on Ryan Garcia, and then ultimately he didn't care if he got stopped by Tank Davis. He wanted him to win that fight because then the hype train continues and everybody can be happy. Ryan can be happy and Oscar can be happy. But, this is what happens when you take a lot of risk. It's respectable, but sometimes you don't get the outcome you want if you're a guy like Ryan Garcia. Now Ryan's starting to recognize, this is all Oscar's gonna pay me. You know, he doesn't respect me enough. I'm the only star, you know, he has. He's undervaluing me. So let me just work with Turki Al-Sheikh or maybe even Al Heyman, and, you know, they'll get me paid, they'll get me right and not take me for granted. So we'll see what, you know, Ryan Garcia does next, but it seems like he's gonna part ways with Golden Boy Promotions and Oscar De La Hoya. So that's the breaking news. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Comment down below what you guys think. But thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next Boxing video. Peace.